At some point, a long time ago, my goal was to devise a way to more easily visualize an AC branch circuit. I accomplished this by simply adding one word, the word station. In doing so, I was afforded the means to remove some useless, outdated traditional terms and revise those that I deemed worthy to keep. Now, this is my second video on my idea that I call the circuit station. In other words, it's a new way to visualize and understand an alternating current branch circuit. The components in the station, all right, the components can be an outlet, a device, and protection. These are the concrete items in your system. These are the real things. You can actually touch them. The station itself, it's the sum of these components, but it's actually an abstract. It's an abstract idea. It's a theory thing, okay? So in my first video in this series, Introduction, the circuit station number 1, I talked only about two stations, the switch station and the receptacle station. That's the only two stations that I covered. Now, there are in total, though, in my system, my way of thinking, 6 stations, okay? In the first video, I talked about the switch station and the receptacle station, but I have 6 in my way of thinking. And each one of the 6 has what I call an in function. It's kind of a helpful mental aid, a little helpful hint to tell you what's going on, give you an idea what's going on in those stations. Okay, for example, you have your service station, or you could call it your service entrance station. You would call it a service entrance panel. But the in function with your service station would be inclusion. All the branch circuits are included. If they're not included, there's no energy, there's no power, and nothing happens. You have your routing station. The key function there is intersection. That's where your conductors meet. They intersect and they connect. In your switch station, the key in function is interruption. In other words, the switch can interrupt the flow of current. In your receptacle station, the key in function is insertion. You plug a plug into the receptacle slots, or you insert a lamp into the lamp receptacle. Then there's the appliance station, and that's a station that's dedicated. It's dedicated solely to one appliance. For an example, my cooktop upstairs. And the key in function word here is industry. In other words, it does work. It does a lot of work for you. Then there's the unassigned station, and that's a station that's unassigned. In other words, basically there's nothing, it's a hot station, it's live, but it's not assigned to any particular appliance yet. So I call that in function indeterminate. Bear with me, I'm downstairs in the basement freezing again. Okay, so in that first introduction video, I talked about only 2 stations, the switch station and a receptacle station. So I covered this would be the outlet, and this would be the device, right? And this would be the outlet, the actual physical concrete thing. And here would be your, here would be your device. Okay, before I move forward, I wanted to tell you that in this example, I'm using a brand here. The brand name is Eaton. I don't know if you can see it, but it's E-A-T-O-N. You can barely see it. And this is an Eaton. All right. This switch here, I don't know if you can see that, is a Leviton. And I'm 72 years old, I have used zillions of these, this brand, Leviton, and have never once had a failure. I have had this brand fail on me, so I don't know if it's just me, but I wanted to say that while we're here. But I have had perfect success with the Leviton brand. I just thought I'd throw that in. So in that first video, the introduction video, I introduced the station, and I told you that the station is comprised of what I call an outlet and possibly a device or an interface and protection, okay? Now, the three stations that employ an interface are your service station, or you could call it a service entrance station. You could kind of consider that your master station, all right? Your switch station and your receptacle station. They use a device, or what I call an interface, all right? The three stations that don't use an interface would be your routing station, your dedicated appliance station, and the unassigned station. So there you have three that are kind of interfaced, as I would call it, and three that are not interfaced, all right? Now, when you talk about a station, it has to have an outlet, all right? Now, I could have, in designing my own system, used the term station and outlet synonymously, but I decided not to. I decided to keep them separate. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at what this would be called an outlet in my system, right? This would be called your device, and this would be called one of the forms of protection, right? Just one, all right? It doesn't allow you to touch any conductors inside. It protects you. Not only that, but another form of protection is the ground wire that's connected to this. And that goes all the way back to your service station, all right? And this is a plastic box, so this doesn't need to be grounded. All right, so you're good to go there. So let's look at the outlet. This is an electrical box, right? It's just a box, all right? You can mount this, you can surface mount it, you can mount it up on the ceiling, just in case you want to put a fixture on it, but it's just a box. That's all it is, all right? This is just a box. Now, let's look at just a box. This is an electrical box. That's what they call it at the store. All right. I call this structure the outlet. All right. The outlet in my way of viewing is also the connectors. That's part of your outlet, the connectors. The part of the cable that's contained within the box, okay, within the box. And then the ground screw here, that's a 1032 screw. That's part of your outlet, all right? It's either attached to the box or it's contained within the box. And then you'll have, when you're done, you'll put your lid on, okay? And that's part of the outlet, all right? The point I'm trying to make is you can mount this anywhere you want to. We can mount these. It just doesn't matter. It's just a box until you take the other end of that cable and you install that cable into your service station, or you would call it a service entrance panel. All right? And this can be energized. All right? Once you have that established, the capability for this outlet to be energized, this box to be energized, then it's an outlet. All right? Until this is hooked up to your circuit breaker in your service station, that's what I call it. Until then, it's just a box, and it's useless. Once you get your setup and you're energized, then you're good to go. All right? That's it for now. I'll come back in the next video and go into a little bit more detail. Thank you.